Hello everyone, welcome to EDUHUNT video lecture series. In the previous sessions, we have discussed about reproduction in animals and what are the male reproductive organs, their structure and function. With respect to human being, we have discussed. In male reproductive system, in any reproductive system for a human being or any animal, higher order of animal, it comprises the primary sex organs and the secondary sex organs. The primary sex organs are directly related to the release of sex cells. Those are gametes which participate in the fusion, that is fertilization and formation of a zygote. These are the primary sex organs. In case of secondary sex organs, they do not result in the production of any sex cells, but they facilitate the movement and they facilitate the fusion of these sex cells which were produced by the primary sex organs. So the primary sex organs as well as the secondary sex organs are also important for a functional sexual reproductive system. And we have also seen in man how various accessory glands that help in locomotion, that help in movement and that help in fertilization process of male individual. The primary sex organs in male individual are testes. These are at the time of formation, they are present in the abdominal cavity and during birth, they just come and settle in the scrotal sac. That is in case of male reproductive system. And there are accessory glands like Cowper's glands, prostate glands, seminiferous tubules, all these accessory structures or organs that are associated with the male reproductive system. They secrete some fluids, seminal fluid and also the Cowper's glands fluid. All these secretions are sticky in nature and they are usually and mostly they are alkaline, slightly alkaline, that is 7.2 to 7.3 pH they have. And also they have fructose especially for providing energy to the sperm. They have even the nutritive material also. Let's see some questions based on this concept. In male reproductive system only these questions are related to. Partitions of testes develop from. They are developed from the tunica albuginea. Tunica albuginea are the structures which are associated with the partitions of the testes, male reproductive primary organ. Vas deferens arises from. Vas deferens arises from cauda epididymis, caput epididymis, corpus epididymis, and rete testis. These three are associated with the epididymis. Epididymis is differentiated into three zones or three parts. It is the first part or the upper part, caput epididymis, and second part is the corpus epididymis, and the third part, lower part, is the cauda epididymis, and it is the structure from which the vas deferens arises. Testosterone, it is a hormone, sex hormone. Testosterone is secreted by Leydig cells, Sertoli cells, pituitary gland and testis. It is secreted by testis. In between spermatogonia are found germinal cells, Sertoli cells, epithelial cells, lymphatic cells. Sertoli cells in seminiferous tubules. Sertoli cells of seminiferous tubules are present in between the spermatogonia. So these are the only 4 questions, very simple and direct questions. Let's move on to the next topic, that is female reproductive system. This is the female reproductive system. In this system, there are various structures related to the development of ova. Those are the female sex cells or female gametes. You can see in the picture, it is the female reproductive structure. It consists of a pair of ovaries which are the primary sex organs. A pair of ovaries, that means 2 ovaries are present. There are 2 ovaries and it is the ovary. This is the ovary. It is the ovary. It is sectional view of ovary. Anyway, there are a pair of ovaries present in the lower abdominal part of female body. These are the primary sex organs of the female individual, and both the ovaries are located in the abdominal cavity. And also secondary sex organs. In male reproductive system also we have mentioned the primary and secondary sexual organs. In the same way, here the main and the primary sex organs are the ovaries, a pair of ovaries, where in male there are a pair of testes. In the same way, here these are the ovaries, the primary reproductive organs of female individual. In addition to that, female individuals develop a pair of fallopian tubes. A pair of fallopian tubes, these are the fallopian tubes. These are the fallopian tubes. A pair of fallopian tubes, one uterus, one vagina, one uterus, a single vagina, and a pair of Bartholin glands. A pair of Bartholin glands. Primary sex organ is a pair of ovaries. Secondary sex organs are fallopian tubes, 2 fallopian tubes which are connected to the uterus, and there is a single uterus. This is the uterus. It is fallopian tube. Here it is one fallopian tube and it is another fallopian tube. Fallopian tube. These 2 fallopian tubes are connected to a single uterus. This is the uterus. Upper portion of uterus is known as fundus uterus. Uterus, and this is the vagina, uterus, vagina, pair of fallopian tubes. All these things together form the female reproductive system. And a pair of Bartholin glands are also present in the female reproductive system. These are present at the end of the fallopian tube and which are closer to the ovary. Fallopian, the end of the fallopian tube, you can see clearly here in this picture. This is the fallopian tube. The tip of the fallopian tube has some projection like things like finger like projections, and these fimbriae, these are closer to the ovary. Yes, here in this side you can see clearly, this is the tip of the fallopian tube which has a finger like projections, fimbriae. It is very close to the tip is very close to the ovary, which gives rise to ova. It is very closer to the ovary and it is a funnel shaped structure. The fallopian tube is a funnel shaped structure. The tip is funnel shaped structure. It is called the infundibulum. The tip or the end of the fallopian tube with finger like projections closer to the ovary is known as the infundibulum, and the fimbriae help in collection of the ova after ovulation. Ovulation is nothing but production of ovules, release of ovules. These ova, ovulation is production of ova from the ovary. This ovum is collected by the finger-like projections of the fallopian tube. It is infundibulum, that is the tip with finger-like projections. Funnel-shaped structure of the fallopian tube, the end of the fallopian tube is known as the infundibulum. And the part medial to the infundibulum is called ampulla. It is ampulla. The medial part of the median part of the fallopian tube is known as the ampulla, and the distal part is known as the isthmus. Fallopian tube, the end or the tip of the fallopian tube with the funnel-like structure is known as the infundibulum, and the finger-like projections of that infundibulum are called the fimbriae. These fimbriae help in collection of the ova after ovulation. Fallopian tube is known as the ampulla, and the distal region of the fallopian tube is isthmus. It is isthmus, and it is the ampulla is a thin-walled and dilated tube, and fertilization takes place in the ampulla. Which part of the fallopian tube the fertilization takes place? That is ampulla. The part medial to the ampulla or next to the ampulla is known as the isthmus. That is the distal portion of the fallopian tube is the isthmus, or the medial part of the ampulla is the isthmus. And where the actual fertilization takes place, generally we say that fertilization in the female takes place in the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube is differentiated into proximal, middle and distal parts. The proximal part is the collecting part. It is meant for collection of ovum, that is called the infundibulum, the funnel-like structure, and the middle part is called the ampulla, which is the actual site of fertilization. In the fallopian tube, the actual site of fertilization is ampulla. During ovulation, the formation of ovum, and the ova are released in the peritoneal cavity, and due to this it is called the coelomic egg. It is not released out. The ova are not released out. A single ovum is produced by one ovary at a time. This single ovum is released into the peritoneal cavity. That is why the egg released by female is known as coelomic egg, and it is the most developed form of the uterus, which is made up of complete fusion of both the fallopian tubes, and it is pyriform. Actually, the uterus is a pyriform. Pyriform is like a pear shaped. It is inverted pear shaped structure. It is pyriform shape, and the upper extended part of the uterus is known as the fundus. The upper part of the uterus is known as the fundus. Yes, this is, I have underlined it. The uppermost portion of the uterus is fundus, and the lower cylindrical part which is narrow and it leads into the vagina. The cylindrical part is called the cervix, and it is cervical canal. It is like a channel and it leads into the vagina. It is known as the birth canal. Birth canal. During intercourse, the sperm enters through the vagina and reach the ovum, where millions of sperms compete with each other. Millions of sperm. These millions of sperm, only out of these million of sperms, only one functional successful sperm will fuse with the ovum. That is a next concept, fertilization. Let's see, the uterus open into fibromuscular and non-glandular tube-like organ, that is called the vagina. Vagina is glandular, non-glandular tube. As I mentioned, it shows the way to the sperms. Vagina is the path or the area where the penis releases its sperm, and it is fibromuscular in nature. Muscular contractions and relaxations appear, and fibrous structure is present around the vagina. It is the structure of the female reproductive system. In short, we can say that the primary reproductive organ is a pair of ovaries, and the secondary reproductive organs which facilitate the fusion of the sex cells, gametes, those are a pair of fallopian tubes, one uterus and one vagina, and a pair of Bartholin glands. These are present and associated with the secondary sexual organs. And if we see clearly, if we go into the detailed structure of the female reproductive system, the ovary is situated laterally. The entire female reproductive system is situated in the abdominal cavity, and very near to the ovaries are two tube-like structures called the fallopian tubes, and the mouth or the end of the fallopian tube is like funnel. It has a fimbriae. They capture the ovum after ovulation, and after this funnel-like structure is called the infundibulum, and the middle portion of the fallopian tube is called the ampulla. It is the site of fertilization, and the distal portion or the medial portion of the ampulla is known as the isthmus. And then coming to the uterus part. Uterus is pyriform in shape, inverted pear-shaped structure, and the anterior or the uppermost portion of the uterus is known as the fundus of uterus. It is fundus, and it leads to a canal-like structure. The anterior part or the upper part is broader, and the posterior part is like a narrow way. It forms a canal. It leads into cervix and forms the cervical canal, which ends up with vagina, opening called vagina. The egg or the ovum which is released into the peritoneal cavity is known as the coelomic egg. And actual copulatory organ of female is the vagina. Vagina is the copulatory organ. In males, penis is the copulatory organ. In female, vagina is the copulatory organ. Copulatory organs are the organs which participate in the intercourse, and through this vagina, the sperm pass into the fallopian tube, and through the fallopian tube, the ovum is collected into the fallopian tube. That is why the sperm reach fallopian tube and where the fertilization takes place. That is the site of fertilization. And then vulva. Alva or vulva means external genitalia of the female. It includes mons veneris, and then labia majora and labia minora, clitoris, hymen, vestibule, and other related perineum. All these things are associated with the female reproductive system. This is about the female reproductive system, in which a pair of ovaries, these are the primary sex organs which form ova during ovulation. Ova are haploid in nature. Ova, each ovum is a haploid. N means haploid. Only single set of chromosomes they carry. Why they carry only single set? Because the other gamete, male gamete, that is sperm, that is getting another 23 chromosomes. It carries only 23. Out of 23 pairs, only one set of 23 chromosomes this ovum carries. And the other 23 chromosomes are carried by the sperm, and if it reaches the ovum, this 23 actually the ovum has, and sperm is getting, and it is getting 23 chromosomes altogether. 23 plus 23, 23 pairs. 2 sets of chromosomes are there now. Now it is called the diploid, and it is called the zygote. Anyway, we'll see that later. This is the structure of female reproductive system. Primary, secondary, sexual organs of a female reproductive system, and the site of fertilization, that is ampulla in the fallopian tube. These are the quite common basic questions asked in the NEET kind of examinations. You just remember the structure. If you remember the structure, it is quite easy to answer the questions based on this concept. All the best, learn well, understand well, and keep going. Thank you.